Hey there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today we have from Camila Cabello CXOXO. The ugly truth about this album cycle for Camila Cabello is how little it's got to do with her actual music. Now that's not altogether surprising. She's a modern pop star and not exactly one of the better ones, competing on a mainstream front that is flooded with either bigger acts, critical acclaim, or those seeing tangible crossover hype for the first time. But let's be real, a lot has looked off for some time. Part of this I chalk up to a change in label and management from Epic to Geffen Interscope. Part falls in line with working with an entire new set of producers. Part the promotional campaign that hasn't really had a clear direction other than to seem to crib notes from more established acts, but also that general feeling of uncertainty around the entire rollout, of which Camila Cabello has actually admitted, describing sitting in discomfort and recognizing there is no clear answers to wherever the hell she's going, which might explain why every single has felt a bit like a train wreck searching for identity with some of the wrong guest stars. Playboi Carti in his own lane with no chemistry at all, Lil Nas X going through a weird downturn of his own, even if the song's okay, and well, 2 Drake features at perhaps the worst possible time for him. Now, all this was setting up for potentially one of the worst albums of 2024, and here's the thing. This is bad, but it's bad in ways that are more interesting than your average garden variety bad pop album, because I can hear shreds of ideas that just never come together or manifest properly. The easiest comparison is the messy moral ambiguity and the trashier dance vibes of Charli XCX's Brat, except swapping out the chic it girls for the humid, percussive, early 2010s Spring Breakers vibes, with more than a few Miami references, trying to piece together some fun out of the heartbreak and sweaty hedonism, where the tones are warping and twisted amidst the slurred auto-tune and half-composed ideas. Well, that's often where the drugs will take you. I get the atmosphere. Now, it's also not an unfamiliar formula within pop, even among the artists who are looking to make it feel a little bit too real in the party. Miley Cyrus is the queen of this, for better and for worse. But queen implies some degree of control, even if it could go off the rails. And here's where Camila Cabello really stumbles. She sounds lost out there. Her perpetually squeaky rasp is now caked in autotune, and she doesn't remotely have the vocal power to command these mixes. But she also struggles to find a pocket to ride many of them effectively, or show any degree of poise or presence. And that's a lingering trace of the Fifth Harmony era, where she was always trying way too hard to sell the song, so it leads to an increasingly disjointed listening experience where it's too sloppy to be cool, but too sexless and inert to be all that sleazy or interesting in that lane. So every guest appearance then feels woefully miscast. Lil Nas X actually acquits himself pretty well when the City Girls do their thing, but Camila Cabello cannot match their sexually charged intensity. And then Drake shows up with the fake patois and the dirty macking, and the vibes are just utterly rancid. She tries to maintain some coy distance, but then just gives Drake an entire interlude where of course he gets pissy. Now this is also paired with a project that despite running just over 30 minutes, it's got no sense of momentum, staggering between half-formed dance jams and attempts at sad girl glamour, where the detail and the emotional intensity are just not there to pull it off. Mostly because it's circling the will they, won't they between her and Shawn Mendes at the core, that she firmly closed earlier this year and already somewhat reconciled on Familia. Although clearly not well enough given how aimless and incoherent any core themes appear to be. Sampling Pitbull's Hotel Room Service, I mean, it's certainly a choice on your desperate deep-cut piano-driven power ballad, but okay. I would be willing to buy into the party until hitting rock bottom arc if there were good tunes or performances attached, but this is where we have to go to the production, where El Guincho and Jasper Harris, their approach to their synthesizers appears to be on that same downward spiral, and not even in the fun way. From the goopy Jersey club catastrophe of I Love It, to the dying pianos on Chanel No. 5, to how the muted keys and fluttery pianos on Dade County Dreaming, they're an incredibly awkward fit for the City Girls, especially when the strings come in. How Dream Girls is trying to balance out the prettier pianos with what sounds like a reggaeton groove, and then those shrill synths that are dumped on top in a really awkward Rosalia impression. Every single tune here feels undercooked and ugly, or maybe attempting for glamour, but no poise or composure to actually pull it off. Hell, even songs that feel somewhat more workable, they're borrowing some of their ideas from better acts. You cannot tell me the vocal blur that passes for melody around he knows isn't openly cribbing from Billie Eilish. And I could argue that the brand of minimalism on Pretty When I Cry falls in the exact same territory, or how much of the humid atmospherics of Twentysomethings or that melancholic warble with the rap touches on June Gloom, they aren't something that Miley Cyrus has done frequently better. Or in the case of both Drake's songs, something that he's already done years ago, and that only serves to make Kendrick Lamar's criticisms ring louder and harder. But as a whole, look, there's a part of me that feels kind of bad reviewing this because it does scream career killer or train record, but also because I don't think all of this is precisely Camila Cabello's fault. New label, new direction, despite the fact that she sounds like she's in a really bad place recording this, some terrible circumstances surrounding the biggest guest star, but it also sounds like everyone else was asleep at the wheel or had no clue how to market and ship this project as a pop album, especially against all the competition. I can't say it's inauthentic or outside of what Camila Cabello seems to have wanted, which is why for some audiences, I imagine this might work. Ironically, it reminds me a lot of Wonder by Shawn Mendes back in 2020, an underperforming artistic misfire where the awkward spiraling was compounded by bad experiments and questionable amounts of talent in order to realize them. But again, I also can't say this is worth anyone's time. I have never been a fan of Camila Cabello as a singer and performer. See the last 3 reviews going back to 2018. But Familia at least showed some potential, and this album promptly squanders it. I hate to say it, it's her worst to date. Just for everyone's sake, skip it. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more, please be sure to like, share, drop comments, subscribe. Look, this is one of those albums that I didn't want to come down too hard on. I think it's bad, but it's bad in a way that I at least think is somewhat interesting. I think there's a core of this album that's kind of missing, and I think I chalk some of that up to Camila Cabello's skills as a performer, but also her not being in the greatest headspace. That does translate on the album, and it would be compelling if I thought any of the ideas came together, and I don't think they do. But hey, leave your comments down below. I'm sure they're all just going to be swell. Beyond that, though, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if you all want to get involved in getting projects on my schedule going forward, because the schedule's going to be reopening this upcoming weekend, please make sure to check out my Patreon right over there. Once again, don't feel obligated. Tough times, I understand, but the option's available. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.